has brand love been sacrificed at the altar of short-term sales? Now, that's the existential question that these three people will answer today. No chat GPT, but people who spent many years and lots of emotion, passion, and sweat into building great brands and superlative businesses. So, interestingly, to begin with, Prabha, Hemant, Rohit, I have posed this as a question, but these guys have posed it as a statement, and I'm willing to say that there's consensus here that brand love has been sacrificed at the altar of short-term sales. Would you agree? Prabha?
So firstly, thank you very much for having me here. It's really a pleasure. I would actually say fairly unequivocally, I don't think so. So that would be my starting response. And I think if you look around at the brands, and a lot of you, as you woke up this morning till the time you've reached here, you would have interacted with a series of brands, what you use, what you wear, the various personal care products that you use. And a lot of them you will find have existed for a really long time.
Do you believe that brand love has been sacrificed at the altar of short-term sales? Because I really do think these guys believe that.
Actually, let me answer that with an analogy. Like, many of you are married here, right? And if you ask anybody saying what makes for a good marriage, right? And you hear words like trust, sometimes understanding, knowing each other, making each other successful. Now, these are all long-term traits, right? And you will hear many of these words when you think about a successful marriage. But we all know marriage is also about showing up every day and making breakfast for each other, for dropping the kids to school, for making the house work, for backing each other on a daily basis on small things. I think try not doing that and try and develop long-term understanding, etc. It goes out, it doesn't happen, right? I think brands and companies are same. There is, and we love binary outcomes or debates. It's just the human emotion. Like in media, for example, nobody will ever report that GK के signal पे आज कुछ नहीं हुआ, right? But एक guy ने किसी कुत्ते को मारा GK के signal पे will be on some channel or something, because it only deals in extremes. I think this statement is a bit like that for me. Right? So marriage, news, extremes, I think there is absolutely no choice but to do both for any institution who wants to be great. Right? You have to show up, you have to get the revenue, you have to get the sale, you have to meet the quota. But no brand will be really built as an institution over time if that's all there is to it. Right? So methods of change, I don't think, I cannot imagine like Mad Men with performance marketing in it. How will it look like? I have no idea, but I love to sort of have a mental image of Mad Men and watch it all over again with one character doing performance marketing.
Now, both my friends have said that brand love is very critical. Now, you can't have me here and saying, yeah, I agree with them. So I have to say that no, marketing has changed. And actually, Rohit talked about marriage. And I think the aspect of relationship. But Rohit, the relationships itself have changed, right? And if you talk about love, the definition of love, I'm sure, in this age, and apart from the first two rows, there are a lot of young people here. And I think, and I think from the relationship perspective, it's no longer about, long-term relationship.
It's situationships, right?
It's absolutely right. So therefore, in fact, you kind of, took the word off my mouth in terms of, and that is the latest Tinder trend in 2022, which is, and therefore I would like to call it, instead of brand love, I would like to call it brand situationship. Right, so you were going to try things. Prabha is lucky to run a brand of 200 years old, and there is a huge love for that brand. But there are a lot of us who create challenger brands, and therefore we need to find mechanisms for people to be able to at least experience us. And therefore, sometimes I call it short-term sale. I don't know. I think it's not wrong. Because every sale is a sale.
The TV commercial, I remember the Vodafone Zuzus, right? That was not one TV commercial. It was a huge, big, creative idea. Is that kind
And a
of work
fantastic
possible
one.
today?
And fantastic one, for sure.
Is that kind of work possible today, Harit? Are you guys engendering, facilitating that kind of work?
So,
Are you able to?
No. Yeah, we set up our own in-house Sixth Sense. We were looking at what are the trending topics. We looked at creating memes. But I think after some time, I think it just gets too boring.
See, this trending topics now, I
Yeah,
come from the
and
news
therefore you have
business.
to come back and
Newsrooms have abdicated their responsibility. Everything is trending topic ke upar.
Correct, exactly.
I mean, and that's being polite.
Right. So I think there was a phase where we got pretty carried away that all our brands also need to respond very quickly if such an event has happened. And I think it's also fair, not fair. It's horses for courses, right? If you are a brand which can reach, because you're a digital commerce brand, right? You are living on that space. We are not a digital commerce brand per se. We have business that we do. And the business has grown. It's maybe about 10%, 15% of my business. But at the same time, I have a very large amount of business which is happening in the different parts of the country. Sure. Of course, they have access to digital, but that is more to consume the media. It's not necessarily everything is about, they'll be able to buy on Amazon, or even if they buy on Amazon. So, yes, the whole aspect of coming back in terms of what your brand stands for, what you want to communicate, which media you use, that can keep on evolving. Whether Rohit feels that it goes, maybe he's got too many layers, so therefore it goes through many layers before it comes to me. But I think it's a question in terms of, can people understand the brand? Because today unfortunately no ads come to me, right? Because there are a set of people who are kind of taking those calls, and and you can see whether if your brands are performing, that means they're doing a good job. If not, then you blame the media agency.
Agencies, do they have to change even more to be relevant? And I'm going to, you need to answer the same question. So you want to go first?
So I think yes and no. Because I think at its core, because you are so fragmented and there are so many people working and there are so many different touch points, there's all the more reason to be clearer on what your brand stands for. So it's almost like the dichotomy of I'm fragmenting the touch points and I'm fragmenting the different kind of messages that I'm sending out. Therefore, the core of the message has to remain more and more tight. And I think that's where agencies need to evolve, to be able to do that, which is to understand the brand and what is at the heart of the brand, and that really does depend on the relationship between the brand and the agent and the agency partners, all of them, and then to see what are the medium at which it can be taken out with communicating that message. And so I don't think the evolution is as much. Even today, you see some fantastic creative out there. So it's not like creative is dead, and it's not like we're not getting output that we all remember. It's just that it's not maybe happening often enough as much as all of us would like.
What do you expect from agencies today?
I expect my agency partners to be the experts. We are not a multinational. We are an Indian company, and therefore I need to learn from my partners. So therefore, if they are not going to come with cutting-edge solutions, I am never going to improve. So I have to rely on them, and therefore my expectation is that they're going to come and teach me things which I don't know, and therefore help me keep on improving and becoming better in terms of, whatever else the marketing job has to be done. That's my expectation.
Rohit?
Yeah, I think just, again, reminding people for context, we are a super young company. We are 8 years old, right, as a company, right? We operate in 550 towns, right?
And are you profitable yet?
You would have picked up the news recently. Yes, the answer is yes. In the food delivery business, we did turn. No, and path to profitability is not embarrassing. Every company goes through it. So I think really look for partners who can help us get better. As simple as that, right? Challenge us, push our thinking, really present options which we don't like, and because, see, I think that is the process which gets the best out of any relationship. Because if it's only taking my brief and converting it to something, that's not good enough anymore.
Are you co-creating anymore, or are you curating together?
I think it always curates to, it always is a process like that, because but my point is that we don't, as a young brand, just 8 years old, having sort of burst on the scene a little bit, and we don't have the luxury of having a brand built over decades, and so it is always going to be new thing. But the fun with us is that there's a very wide range you are willing to operate in, right, of ideas. So I think that's the fun of working with us, right? The briefs are not tight enough. But I personally think I love to get challenged by my agencies, partners, all the time.
Is it possible to talk about long term today anymore at all? Because our tastes change. We had a direct brush with mortality 3 years ago, all of us. Isn't it about now? Isn't it about the moment? Is it about situationships? Isn't it about the short term? And in that context, this brand love, is it a unrealistic expectation?
If I take a song, Hoto Se Chulo Tum, 50% of this audience will remember 70% of the song. Ask this audience to sing a full song which was released last month. I bet you 5% won't be able to do it. Right?
Is that because of fragmentation?
The reason is Chitrahar used to come at 8:30 on Wednesdays and Mahabharata and Ramayana on Sunday at 10 a.m. So you saw the same three jingles, Nataraj Pencil, EC Valblana. I don't even know they were great ads or not, but they were the only ads which are frequently seen by us at that point in time. It's stuck in our mental models, right? Today there's an explosion which is so different from the world that we sort of grew up in, that nostalgia confounds us, our thinking. And the nostalgia was a function of very limited exposure and repeated exposure to the same ad, the same jingle, the same song. Right?
Yeah.
Today that has changed, and that poses a unique challenge of cutting through the clutter much, much more than it was ever required in the past, because there was only that much. Chitrahar at 8:30. Hoto Se Chulo Tum will play like every third Wednesday, and you will feel delighted about it. Right? So it's a very different world, and we just need to embrace that and recognize it requires a different skill set, a different toolkit to be able to build a brand today.
What are some of the elements? If you open the toolkit that you use, Prabha, what would we find in it to create brand love?
Well, I think the first...
Or brand preference?
The expanded definition, always. I think the first thing has to be, and I think Hemant mentioned this as well, the first thing has to be, you have to have a product that delivers. You make a promise, you deliver to that promise. It's that simple. It doesn't matter. You're an old brand, you're a new brand, you're expensive, you're not expensive. It doesn't matter. And I think that's the first part of the toolkit. The second is consistency in what you do. As you expect, I think consistency in the relationships that you have, the people you deal with, you expect consistency in your brand. If your brand is telling you that I'm all about value, then you must deliver value. If your brand is telling you I'm about cutting edge science, you're expecting that the brand will deliver cutting edge science, and that science may evolve, but the brand still needs to deliver it. So I think that's the two big things for me. And then the communication of this in a manner that attracts attention in a fragmented world, that's the part I think that is really difficult, because you can create the communication, but you have to cut through what is a humongous amount of noise and a degree of skepticism and cynicism, which also didn't exist earlier.
Yeah, that's true. Each one of you, you will have to give me 3 top brand preferences for each one of you.
Purely brands which I really love, I think Red Bull, right, for what they have done. There's a very not small, maybe quite large now, Oatly, which is Swedish. I think some of the stuff they do is quite insane. I think they challenge the whole Swedish milk industry in a phenomenal way. I think closer to home, I will still say Pidilite is it's very special. It just continues to amaze me at how consistent they are with what they do. Yeah.
I love to play golf, and therefore, brand like Augusta Masters kind of excites me. products, we've been talking about products, so like, there are hardly any, I'm part of that 18% which says I can, it's not that any specific brand. I can't talk about my own brand that you've already said, no. So I think, that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Prabha?
So I think I've had the longest time to think. So I think my favorites would be MTR, because I grew up with it and I love how they've managed to hold their consistency.
Yeah.
Then there would be Asian Paints, but it's also top of mind because we're renovating our house and everything is about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the third one, you referenced it, is actually the Chennai Super Kings, because I'm a big fan and I'm glad they're in the final.
In the final. Well, it was lovely to hear you say this. And for anybody who wants to know, I'm going to go with Tibbs Frankie. If you are in Mumbai, you'll know it. Tibbs Frankie, Titan, and Netflix at this point of time. Thank you, everybody. It was wonderful talking to you.